Episode 4 is very much a character-driven episode, but it's not Carol I'm talking about. Well, it is Carol and the Joined, but in the beginning of the episode, we do see a bit more of a different character we have heard of before, Manuso, which is the guy Carol called in episode 2 from the plane, the same one that so far he avoided making any contact with the Joined. Now, he's not doing very well. He's locked up somewhere. He's running dangerously low on food. He's eating, packets of ketchup and mayo and cans of dog food. And we finally see what he was doing at the time when Carol called him. What he was trying to do is to make contact with other people through some sort of a radio. I think he's testing every bandwidth he can, hoping to find people who are not joined. And then when Carol calls him and has a proper go at him in that broken Spanish of hers, he realizes instantly that she is not one of the joined because she's so angry, she's not happy. And he writes down her name. So I'm sure we're going to come back to Manuso, but this is all we're seeing from him or of him at this time. Now, back to Carol. She's back home after the terrible incident in the previous episode. Her home is being repaired in the meantime by the Joined. Zosha is in the hospital recovering, but once Carol returns home, she starts to make a plan based on everything that she knows about the Joined. I have to add here that everything Carol does is so perfectly normal. All her decisions, they match her character and what a normal person would do, to be honest, in this new world. All her outbursts, all her choices, her fears, they're all grounded. This is probably why she's such a relatable character. She's pessimistic and depressed, but she feels very realistic. Back to the episode, Carol continues to explore those limitations of what the Joined can do for her, but more importantly, now she tries to see if she can use those limitations to her advantage. So she makes a big, massive list on this whiteboard that she has at home that she used to use for structuring her books. And she puts on this list what she knows about the Joined. And one of those questions at the bottom is that they're weirdly honest. Are they weirdly honest? With a question mark. And this she tries to test. And there's a really nice section of the episodes when she grabs one of the guys, the Joined, outside who is repairing her home, and she starts asking questions about her books and her best friend Helen. Questions she probably should not ask, because it turns out that the Joined are brutally honest, and if she pushes enough, they will tell her the truth, even if the truth can hurt. As a character, again, we see the many layers of Carol. She's smart but flawed. She's strong, which she must be, but she's fragile most of the time. Even in this terrifying new world, she still clings to her old demons, her old insecurities, her old unresolved issues. For example, whether Helen liked her series of books or not, or her personal book, she liked that or not. And these things, they don't really advance the story, but they reveal so much about who Carol actually is. So we get to root a bit more for her and care for her and get to know her very well, which has always been the sign, at least in my point of view, of sign of a great series. Because if I think back of series like The Americans, for example, we get to spend time with those characters, understand their situation, and that makes them memorable. Same with Breaking Bad. We get to spend time with those characters, and that makes them memorable. So that is a sign of a great series. Carol is also a redeemable human being. She's not all miserable and depressed. She visits Zosha in the hospital and apologizes for not thinking ahead that in the previous episode, the Joined brought her a literally a live hand grenade when she asked for one, and she didn't never realize that if she does ask for something, even if she's being sarcastic, they will bring one to her. But on the other hand, Carol still stays hopeful and stubborn, even though she's upset and angry all the time. And she now knows that the Joined cannot lie to her, and if there is a question they do not want to answer, they will simply try to avoid it. So naturally, Carol uses that to her advantage and asks if there is a way to reverse the joining and bring the world back to how it was. She asks Zosha this, and why she's still in the hospital bed, if the Joined know more about how they work and how they communicate, and if there is a way to undo the process. Now, this is the moment that I really like in the film, because this puts Zosha, which is them, representative of them, in a very tricky position, because if this reversal exists, or if there is an answer to this question, the next question that Carol will ask is, how do you reverse it? And because they cannot lie, they will have to tell her the truth. And this mid-episode scene is excellent, because there's a massive revelation about Carol's past, which I won't spoil here, but the scene works because it forces the characters to talk about things that shaped them, such as this trip when Carol was 16, but also because for the first time we see the joined through Zosha being uncomfortable. They are torn between trying to make Carol happy by telling her the truth, answering to her question, but also protecting themselves. It's like two imperatives, two conflicting prompts in a computer program that are at odds, and that internal struggle is played very well by Carolina Wydra, the actress that plays Zosha. Is brilliant, and it's funny at the same time, but it's interesting, it's gripping also. And during that same scene, again, they return to the question of why the joined want to turn Carol into one of them, even though she clearly doesn't want to. But at the same time, Zosha turns it back to her. She says, why do you want the rest of the joined to return to how they used to be? Carol does not know what it is like to be joined, but they know what it is like to be human. So why is she being arrogant about it? Maybe it is better to be joined. That remains to be seen the rest of the series, but just raises an interesting question from Carol's point of view. But since Carol is so stubborn, she picks up on this fact that they cannot lie to her, and if she pushes far enough, she can get her answer if the whole process can be undone. So there's a big section of the episode where she tries some heroin and films herself to see how she reacts, and lo and behold, under the influence of heroin, all the honesty she normally hides just bursts out of her, and actually some more revelations in there that are interesting, which I'm sure we're going to pick up later in the series. But it's clear that she wants to drug Zosha to tell her how to reverse the joining and return to the world how it was before. And so she does. So she goes back to the hospital, she drugs Zosha and tries to put the question to her, and that's where the episode ends, on this big massive cliffhanger. And again, Carol's choices have serious consequences. This was an excellent episode. I really like these ones that are character driven more than the story driven. It keeps asking the questions. We see these characters develop, and we see the stakes being raised. Is there a limit to the patience and what the joined are willing to do for Carol? I would not be surprised if this earns plenty of nominations at next year's Emmys. To be honest, it's already one of the best, if not the best, drama that Apple has ever released, and for good merit. Because it just keeps getting better and better with each episode. I'll see you next time.